very tough on people, you know.
How did you end up with Meisner?
A guy named Ricky Morse, Bobby Morse, Robert Morse, who did a stint on Broadway.
He wasn't a hero. He was just a man who spent his life finding ways to dodge military duty. At 94, Robert Duvall finally broke a silence that had lasted more than half a century. The man who once rode alongside John Wayne in True Grit, who once believed he was acting beside a legend, now confessed behind that proud horseback figure, was not a hero, but a man obsessed with power, haunted by fame, and consumed by the idea of his own superiority. For decades, Hollywood built John Wayne into the symbol of freedom, of the Wild West spirit, of the ideal American man. But no one ever asked what the true cost of that image was. Behind the smoke and applause was a soul corroded by prejudice, hidden affairs, and patriotic speeches built on fear. And today, Robert Duvall is ready to tell it all, the untold story of the man he once admired most and also despised more than anyone in his life. I've seen terrible things in my life, but I never thought the man the whole of America worshipped could say something that chilled me to the bone. It all began one morning in March 1971. Sitting at a small table in his worn-out trailer in Santa Monica, Robert Duvall read an interview with John Wayne in Playboy magazine. He said his hands trembled when he saw the bold headline across the page, "I believe in the superiority of white people until others learn how to live responsibly." That sentence hit him like a knife. Duvall threw the magazine on the table and stared out the window. The sunlight outside still looked bright and calm, as if nothing had happened, but inside him, something broke. "I used to respect John," he said, "but that day, every bit of respect I had for him died." In Duvall's memory, Wayne was always the man who walked onto a film set with his head high and a voice that silenced the room. But with that commanding presence came a kind of arrogance that was hard to stomach. He believed he embodied true America, and that belief gave him the right to judge everyone who was different from him. Duvall recalled one day on the True Grit set when a black lighting technician accidentally spilled Wayne's coffee. Nothing serious, just a dark stain spreading across the cold floor. But Wayne exploded, his face red. "You people never learn how to work properly, do you?" The whole set froze. The technician bowed his head, hands shaking. Duvall remembered that moment, as if it had just happened. I saw the man's eyes an expression that had known humiliation. And John just turned away, lighting a cigarette like nothing had happened. Duvall's anger wasn't sparked by one act, but by an attitude. He treated people like they were invisible, unless he needed someone to carry his props, Duvall said. And if they weren't white, he never used their names. He'd just whistle, like calling for a horse. That was Hollywood. In the late 1960s, a time when civil rights movements were rising, Martin Luther King had fallen, and young artists were demanding justice. But on the other side, John Wayne stood firm, like the last stone of old conservatism. He believed America didn't need to change. It only needed to stay strong. One night while filming in Colorado, as the crew gathered around a campfire, Duvall said Wayne raised his glass of whiskey, looked into the distance, and uttered a line he would never forget. "Those natives are selfish. They want to keep their land while the white man's just trying to survive." Silence fell. A few people gave nervous laughs. Duvall stared at him. I wanted to ask him, survive by taking what isn't your... But I knew saying it wouldn't change a thing. John Wayne didn't debate, he commanded. When the Playboy interview was published, Hollywood shook. Half the public was outraged. The other half shrugged, or even applauded. Major networks like NBC and CBS still invited Wayne to speak, calling him the honest voice of conservative America. Meanwhile, young protesters filled the streets holding signs that read, "Heroes don't hate." But Wayne refused to apologize. At a press conference in Los Angeles, he said, "I only speak the truth. If people can't handle it, that's their problem." Duvall heard that line on the radio, and for the first time in his life, he felt disgust toward the very profession he had devoted himself to. "We made films about freedom, about justice," he said, "but our symbol of justice was saying things that made the word itself sound like a joke." There was one story Duvall kept secret for decades, until old age loosened his restraint. One morning, while preparing to shoot the river crossing scene in True Grit, Wayne arrived late. The air was freezing. As they waited, a Native American supporting actor named Joe Black Horse sat by the riverbank shivering. Wayne walked over smirking, "Guess you're used to this kind of weather." "Huh." Indian Joe just bowed his head. Duvall saw the hurt in his eyes. He stepped over and draped his coat across Joe's shoulders. Wayne chuckled. "Careful, Bob. Warm them up too much, and they'll start asking for their land back." Duvall said that was the first time he nearly lost control on a film set. If Henry Hathaway, the director, hadn't stepped between us, I don't know what would have happened. After that incident, their relationship froze completely. But what Duvall could never forgive was Wayne's arrogance, even when the world turned against him. When reporters asked if he regretted what he said, in Playboy, Wayne replied, "I've got nothing to regret. America needs men who speak the truth." Duvall remembered watching that interview on TV from his small apartment in New York. The screen's glow traced every deep line on his face. That's when I realized he said he wasn't playing the Western hero. He truly believed he was the conqueror. And all of us, his co-stars, his audience, even America itself, were the conquered ones in his story. Duvall took a long breath, eyes drifting into the distance as he spoke. "I used to think we just acted differently. Turns out we were different in humanity." After True Grit, he avoided every invitation to work with Wayne again. Throughout the 1970s, when asked about their relationship, Duvall would only smile. "There's nothing to talk about." But that silence held decades of anger until he finally chose to break it. "My disgust," he said slowly, "wasn't just about his words. It began with what I saw behind the scenes, where America's hero treated people as if they didn't deserve respect. It ended with the sharp, aged stare of Robert Duvall as he said a line that left the studio silent. If he was the image of America, then I'm grateful I never wanted to be American in his way. Some people bring glory onto a set. He brought the smell of whiskey and fear. Robert Duvall has never forgotten that first morning in Telluride, Colorado, where True Grit began filming. The crew had arrived at 6. Cold mist still veiled the hills. Cameras were mounted. Director Henry Hathaway was irritated at the delay. "Where's Wayne?" he rasped. No one answered. Near 8 o'clock, a black Jeep crested the slope, its engine echoing across the valley. The door opened and John Wayne stepped out holding a glass of whiskey instead of coffee, heading straight for props. The scent was so strong, Duvall said you could smell it from several meters away. That's how he said good morning with liquor and a contemptuous look for everyone, Duvall recalled. Wayne walked to the director's chair engraved with his name and slammed the glass onto the table. "I don't need anyone telling me to show up early," he growled. No one dared reply. The first scene was delayed 30 minutes because Wayne demanded a complete swap of the horses. He said, "I won't ride anything that looks weak. The audience pays to see me stronger than the Almighty." According to Duvall, this wasn't a one-off. It was a pattern. Wayne treated the set as his domain. He wasn't just the lead, he was a domineering ruler of a court everyone feared. Once, while shooting in an Arkansas valley, Wayne hurled a coffee cup at an assistant because the sugar was off. The cup shattered and cut a young crew member's leg. Blood trickled, but Wayne only shrugged and said coldly, "Next time, get it right, kid." No one dared react. No one met his eyes, Duvall said. That was John Wayne's power. He could keep people silent, even when they were bleeding. Throughout the months on True Grit, Duvall felt like he was living in a kingdom of fear. Wayne arrived late, left early, and wanted scenes changed to his being. He would step into other actors' frames, blocking the lens, then say, "No one steals my shot, not even the Almighty." Once, while Duvall was delivering a key line, Wayne deliberately moved in and occupied half the frame so the camera caught only him. Hathaway barked cut, and the whole crew froze. Duvall stepped out, trying to stay calm. "John, you're blocking my camera." Wayne smirked. "If you want the frame, you'll have to take it." That's how he lived. No sharing, no yielding, only dominance, Duvall said. It wasn't just Duvall. Others suffered Wayne's mood swings too. A bit-part actress told Duvall that during a short scene, Wayne adjusted her stance. Instead of guiding gently, he gripped her shoulders so hard, he left bruises. He said it was how he taught me to stand firm for the camera. But all I felt was fear, she said. Wayne often shouted on set when anyone made a mistake using demeaning language. One day, he made a group of background actors ride horses for 6 hours under a blazing sun to see who could take it. Many were exhausted. One fainted. Wayne only laughed. "If you're weak, you don't belong in the West." He thought strength meant making others afraid. Duvall said, "I believe real strength is restraint." One afternoon, Duvall sat in the corner of a tent and watched Wayne stride onto the set with a half-smoked cigar. He signaled the crew to stop and shouted because the light wasn't the tone he liked. When Henry Hathaway explained they were using the right lens for a sunset shot, Wayne slammed his hand on the table. "I don't need a sunset. I need John Wayne," Duvall recalled. I looked at Henry. He just sighed. Everyone knew arguing with John was useless. He always won, even when he was wrong. Another time in the middle of filming, Wayne lit a cigarette, glanced at Duvall, and said, half joking, half, not, "You know why the audience loves me? Because I am America, and you're just one of the people living off it." Duvall didn't answer. He only felt pity. I realized then he wasn't an actor anymore. He'd become his own character. A man so intoxicated with control, he couldn't tell performance from reality. Tension blanketed the entire production. Each day on set felt like entering a conflict zone. People walked, softly spoke quietly, afraid of provoking him. A sound tech said that a tiny mistake, a tangled mic cable, would earn him a tirade and a threat to be kicked off the crew. Many endured it simply out of fear of losing their jobs. Duvall considered quitting more than once, but Henry Hathaway pleaded Bob, "If you go, we lose the film. Hold on a little longer." So he stayed, not for Wayne, but for his own pride. I didn't want him thinking he'd beaten me. I wanted to finish, to prove real heroes don't need to shout. Another incident burned into Duvall's memory. The night before the final scene, Wayne Tipsy gathered the crew and made them listen to him sing "God Bless America." His voice was hoarse and offbeat, but no one dared cut him off. When he finished, he laughed, raised his glass, and said, "Without me, Hollywood wouldn't have any America at all." To Duvall, it was the most arrogant declaration he'd ever heard. In his eyes, Duvall said, "I saw emptiness." A man who wasn't acting anymore, he was just playing himself. After each day's work, Wayne often left alone, jumped into his Jeep, and sped off into the night. Sometimes he returned the next morning with reddened eyes, still in the same clothes. Duvall heard whispers from logistics that he'd spent the night at a gaming room in town or at a supporting actress's place. He treated everything like a game, even dignity, Duvall said. By the end of the schedule, the crew was exhausted. Henry Hathaway, though the director, no longer had the authority to rein Wayne in. During a behind-the-scenes photo shoot, Wayne stood in the middle and told the photographer, "Only shoot my right side where I look bigger." Duvall stood at the edge of the frame, his eyes cold. "I'd never seen anyone so desperate to be admired," he said. When true grit rapped, no one celebrated. No party, no thank yous, only the sound of that Jeep fading away, leaving dust and relief. Years later, remembering it, Duvall's voice still roughened. If he could be harsh at work, then his private life was worse. That line closed the chapter on the set's shadows, where a so-called hero turned everyone around him into subordinates. I used to think the proud horseman on screen would love like a gentleman. It turned out he only knew how to possess and left broken hearts behind. Los Angeles, autumn 1954. The Beverly Hills Hotel glowed with warm light corridors, hushed, except for the polished steps of stars heading to parties. Robert Duvall, then a young stage actor newly arrived in Hollywood, never forgot the evening that shaped how he saw John Wayne. He said that by chance, as he passed the third-floor rooms, the door of 317 stood ajar. A tall man in a towel, cigarette in hand, stepped out with a smirk. "Don't stare, kid. This is the real Hollywood." It was John Wayne. And behind the door, Duvall glimpsed Marlene Dietrich, hair tousled, wrapped in a bedsheet like a dress. They had just ended a night of art, as Wayne liked to call it. I understood immediately. Duvall said for him, love wasn't feeling, it was control. John Wayne married 3 times. But as Duvall put it, each marriage ended with the crash of a whiskey glass and an apology that never meant anything. His first wife, Josephine Sayans, a devout woman who bore him 4 children, once believed love could anchor a drifting man. But nothing held Wayne except the shadow of his own fame. When he drank, he disappeared 4 days, returning with unfamiliar perfume on his clothes. With his second wife, Esperanza Bauer, a Mexican actress known for fierce jealousy, the relationship turned into a play of tears and weapons. Duvall recounted a story he heard from Henry Hathaway on the True Grit set. On the premiere night of Angel and the Bad Man, 1947, she burst into the apartment and found Wayne with a young actress. In a rage, she pulled a firearm and screamed, "You lied to me, John. You said you'd come home." She didn't fire, but a stray shot cracked the mirror, leaving a fracture like a scar across their marriage. And the next morning, Duvall said Wayne just laughed and said, "She's got spirit, doesn't she?" That line chilled me. In the 1950s, amid post-war Hollywood's shine, Wayne was the model American male, strong, expansive, untouchable. But behind the bright posters lay a string of covert liaisons everyone knew about and no one dared discuss. Rumors about him and Maureen O'Hara, her hair as red as flame, spread from Rio Grande 1950 to The Quiet Man 1952. Reporters often spotted them hand in hand during breaks. Once on the Rio Grande set in Utah, Duvall, visiting the production, recalled Wayne walking past dozens of crew members taking O'Hara's hand, laughing. "If anyone asks, tell them I'm shooting a romantic scene. Got it?" O'Hara smiled, but her eyes were anxious. In a rare later life interview, she admitted Wayne couldn't tell the difference between love and ownership. Friends noticed that possessiveness too. Duvall said Wayne had a habit of talking about the women in his life like trophies. He rarely used names, just that secretary, the brunette actress. Yeah, for him affection was victory, not attachment. One night in 1962, at the Brown Derby, Duvall overheard Wayne telling friends, "Women here are like bourbon. If you don't finish the glass, someone else will." The table roared. Duvall quietly stood up. When he said that Duvall remembered, I realized the price of power is emotional numbness. He didn't know how to care for anyone, only how to enjoy the ability to hurt. As time passed, Wayne's private life grew more chaotic. Nights of parties glitter and nameless dawns. In 1957, Confidential hinted at a long list of beauties linked to him, long enough to fill a novel. Wayne didn't deny it. He quipped, "If I loved as much as they say, America ought to build me my own monument." Duvall didn't laugh. He said that behind every escapade was another woman leaving in tears. One of them, an unknown extra from the Alamo, confided to Duvall. He promised to call, then vanished. To him, I was just a temporary scene. Duvall said Wayne kept a strange habit after each involvement. He'd write the woman's name on the last page of whatever script he was working on, as if marking a conquest. "I saw that notebook once," Duvall said, "and wished I hadn't." Some names were crossed out in red with "The End" scribbled beside them. To him, people were just lines to delete. By the 1960s, as women's rights gathered force, Wayne became the opposing emblem, an old guard figure in a changing world. In interviews, he openly mocked calls for equality. If women want to be men, they should learn to endure like men. Trade papers like Variety and the Los Angeles Times criticized the remark, but Wayne only shrugged. He was used to living inside the armor of "I am America untouchable." Duvall felt differently. Whenever he talked about women, he said, "I felt a chill." He didn't speak like someone who had loved, but like someone describing a horse he'd once ridden. In 1965, on a shoot in Monument Valley, Duvall met Wayne again. Wayne was in his third marriage to Pilar Palate, a Peruvian woman 20 years younger. Outwardly, they looked happy. Backstage, everyone knew Pilar lived in fear. Duvall said, "She always bowed her head, never meeting his eyes when she spoke." Once I asked why. She whispered, "Because he doesn't like women talking back." That night, Duvall saw Wayne sitting alone, half a bottle gone, eyes vacant. He asked, "Are you happy?" John Wayne stared into the dark. Happiness is for the weak, Bob. I just need to be remembered." And that was the first time Duvall said I pitied him. Because behind that steel shell, there was nothing, only self-made loneliness. Hollywood long hailed Wayne as the model man, strong, forthright, an emblem of old America. But to Duvall, behind the praise, lay a chain of deceit and control. He believed fame allowed him to do anything, even step on others, Duvall concluded. But perhaps what I disdain most is how he turned art into a tool for messaging. That line opens the next chapter of Duvall's account, where he will reveal the darkest side of John Wayne, the moment when the man lauded as a national symbol turned cinema itself into an instrument for power and politics. Freedom isn't what you shout louder than others. Freedom is having the courage to let others speak. Los Angeles, spring 1971. An after-party at a studio on Melrose, the lounge thick with cigar smoke and loud laughter. John Wayne stood in the center of the room, glass raised, a voice like a command I turned down high noon because it was anti-American. The crowd applauded. Someone shouted bravo, as if they'd just heard a nation-saving speech. Duvall leaned against the doorframe, quietly watching. He didn't see an actor sharing a professional opinion. He saw a symbol recruiting loyalty. Wayne went on, voice low and solemn, as if reading a manifesto. "We need films that make Americans proud, not ones that make them doubt the town's sheriff." The room burst into laughter. Duvall said he heard only one message. Anyone who didn't fit Wayne's patriotic picture was labeled disloyal. Washington, D.C., 1952. On television, the House Un-American Activities Committee was questioning artists. Duvall remembered those evenings in front of a black and white screen, watching faces sweat under bright lights. In Hollywood's back rooms, people whispered about lists, names crossed off projects because of a photo with the wrong friends, an old article, or simply a comment from John Wayne. "He's not patriotic enough." That one line, Duvall said, could cancel contracts, erase shoot schedules, slam studio doors, not because Wayne held office, but because he was a symbol. And in Hollywood, symbols can outrank the law. Studio bosses feared him more than they feared the truth. Duvall spoke of a supporting actor named Frank M., dropped from 3 projects after Wayne mocked him at a party. Frank prefers philosophy to 6-shooters. No one called Frank again. Years later, Duvall met him at a small, off-Broadway theater. Frank smiled thinly. In New York, there's less gunfire, but people still listen. Monument Valley, 1960. On a day off, a group of young actors debated war, civil rights, and movies brave enough to question authority. Wayne stepped in, hand raised for silence. Freedom is responsibility. If you don't love your country enough, keep quiet. Duvall said it was one of the rare times he answered him directly. If freedom silences others, what freedom is that? Wayne narrowed his eyes, lit another cigarette. You talk like a professor. In the West, we don't debate, we pick a side. The crowd drifted away. In the hush, Duvall understood Wayne didn't just play the hero. He wanted to defy civic virtue through the lens. For Wayne, cinema wasn't art anymore. It was a banner. There was an irony. Duvall kept to himself. Los Angeles, 1943 to 1944. Many of Wayne's peers enlisted. Jimmy Stewart flew B-24 over Europe. Clark Gable joined the Air Corps. Henry Fonda shipped out to the Pacific. John Wayne, he stayed on set. The official reason, serving the nation through film. Duvall said, I wasn't there to judge. But when someone avoids the trench and lectures others on courage, something feels off. The town buzzed with talk, deferments, studio contracts, half answers. Wayne became a screen hero, while men his age, less famous, came home with medals and nightmares. The real heroes were on the battlefield, Duvall murmured, and our hero stood behind the camera. Beverly Hills, a charity gala in 1968. On stage, Wayne spoke grandly about free speech and the American dream. Under the table, Duvall overheard a screenwriter whisper to his wife, I sent in a script with an anti-war character. The studio said, great cut, all that. John won't like it. After the speech, Wayne passed Duvall's table. He stopped, set a hand on Duvall's shoulder, like a benediction. You should make films that make America proud. Duvall looked up. I just want to make films that make people truthful. Wayne smirked. Truth needs loyalty. That was the moment Duvall understood. In Wayne's dictionary, loyalty meant submission. Saigon Summer, 1966. News carried on U.S. radio. Duvall remembered the reports from the battlefield, the casualty counts rising daily. In Hollywood, the arguments raged. Wayne prepared The Green Berets, 1968, a film many called a brochure shot in Panavision. Duvall saw a private screening. In the dark, each scene felt like a message. If you doubt, you betray. He turned cinema into a trench, Duvall said. And anyone who asked questions became a target. A critic walked out midway. The next day, his paper lost ad buys from a major spirits company, the same brand sponsoring a gala where Wayne was guest of honor. No one proved a connection. No one doubted what had happened. One night, in a small Santa Monica bar, Duvall sat with the director once named by HUAC. The man had lived through years of no work, no friends, no voice. He raised a glass. I don't resent John for being conservative. I resent that he was afraid and turned that fear into other people's silence. Duvall was quiet for a long time, then answered, when fear wears a crooked flag, it looks a lot like patriotism. And then the final irony, at every party, Wayne spoke of freedom. Yet the list of people asked to leave Sets for disagreeing grew longer. A young camera operator who'd once muttered that a shot felt too heavy-handed got a notice the next day no longer aligned with the project's direction. A supporting actress questioned a scene. Wayne smiled. "Sweetheart, we don't need questions. We need victories." Duvall saw the power structure laid bare, the language of war replacing the language of art. Those who didn't line up were treated as enemies. Years later, far from applause, Duvall sat on a wooden porch in Virginia, listening to the wind over the fields. He remembered everything high noon whacked the lists, the cries of un-American, the shoulder pats that came with orders. He understood why he'd been quiet so long. Hollywood is a town that rewards silence. But at 94, there was no room left for fear. He wasn't America's symbol. Duvall concluded, his voice low and clear. He was the fear America created to hide its own weakness. He lifted his head, as if speaking to the departed and to himself. And maybe only at 94 could I say this, not to tear down a legend, but to free my own soul from the shadow named John Wayne. Outside, the sunset burned dark red. Duvall stood folded his memories. Somewhere between life and film, he chose what Wayne never chose, to let others speak, even when they speak differently. Some people die as legends. As for me, I just want to live as a human being. At 94, Robert Duvall doesn't need applause. He only wants people to understand truth never gleams like the movies. It smells of smoke, tastes of liquor, and carries a fear buried for too long. And when he finally spoke, Hollywood had to face what no one dared admit. Sometimes, the hero on screen is the antagonist in real life. If you believe it's time to turn over the hidden corners of Hollywood heaven, share this video, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the stories they've tried to hide for half a century.